Welcome to Dig on America, where we speak truth to power. Every week, we give you the dig on how American history, policies, and media created the social and political issues we face today. DOA is independent media supported by listeners.
What will be your policy towards social justice protests and things like that in Florida?
Yeah. So I was working with Black Lives Matters and Polk.
Oh, don't
That's
say
it. You
that.
lost.
Don't say that. God,
Listen,
damn
I
it.
got into politics to say what I want. I mean, listen, I've been in Iraq. You know, I've lived my life. I've done some great things in my life, and my whole life now has contributed to giving back to my community. And for me, I walk with Black Lives Matters. I walk with Cuban Life Matters. I walk with Peta de Vida, which is the Cuban movement. I'm gonna walk wherever I need to walk to make sure that we have equality in America for all people. I don't care if you're white, brown, black. We all need to be treated equal, because at the end of the day, this issue that we're having is an issue of the rich and the most fortunate people are literally saying that we don't care about the middle class anymore. We don't care about the poor class anymore. We're just going to keep going ahead. And this is also political elites. We're just going to keep moving forward, and the heck with them. And so we have to start talking about that issue. And Black Lives Matter is, to me, it's all part of the organization good? No. But as some of the purpose behind the organization, what I'm really looking forward to. And their purpose is to make sure that we bring equality to America. And I can't speak to every individual in that organization, but I can speak to the purpose. And for me, the purpose is we do need to start talking about police issues, because at the end of the day, I've served with police officers. I've served with firemen. So I understand what they go through when they go home to their children at night and they have, to make split-second decisions. I understand what they're going through. I understand the decisions they have to make. But at the same time, I do understand that they're trained a certain way. And that way is no fault of their own, is discriminatory in practice, in nature. And that is something we have to talk about as a country. That's something we have to find a way to move forward from. And we can't shy away from it by saying, oh, this organization ain't bad. So everything that this organization stands for is saying that we don't stand with police officers. And that's can be further from the truth for me.
One thing that I would really love to hear more candidates talk about is where the Democrats are wrong because they're talking about defunding the police. And like, yeah, I get it. Shitty messaging. I get that. Would you be behind something that pushed for more actual legal training for cops? Because if they actually knew the laws that they were enforcing, as opposed to knowing the posters that are on the damn lockers in the locker room, which is what they go by. They go by what Sarge tells them. They go by what the chief tells them, and they go by whatever they hear with their various colleagues, as opposed to what is legal. Because I think if they get towards a more legal mindset, a lot of this stuff disappears. Because as soon as they start putting their hands on somebody, like, is there a reasonable, articulable suspicion of a crime here? I could get wrapped up in some real legal mess if I continue on down this path.
Yeah. So that's a good point, Mikey. Here's the thing, Mikey. For me, it's two stories. I mean, as a police officer, I never want a police officer to second guess himself, because it's about his safety and his life and his family. I mean, we ask him to put his life on the line for service, and he does that to make sure that I sleep at night and you sleep at night. So I'm never going to ask him to second guess his decision. But what I am going to ask is for police officers to be more trained. It doesn't make any sense when a police officer spends a month in training and then you give them a firearm and think they can go ahead and do the job. When someone like me, I was in the Marines, I went to 4 months of boot camp. I went through 6 months of basic workup training, which essentially is preparing to go overseas. And that's like 10 months to a year before I stepped foot in Iraq, and to carry a weapon. So we can't ask a police officer to get 1 month or 2 months of training and expect to be an expert of escalation of force. They're just not. And, you know, they don't run into enough scenarios. They haven't seen enough scenarios to actually train for that properly. And that's one of the things that we should be working with the police officers to understand, that they need more training. They need more, and to second that, they need more culture training, because the way a African American reacts to a police officer and the way a white person reacts to a police officer is drastically different.
One of my good friends is a police officer, and he brought up something that was very informative to me. He said one of the best ways to end a lot of the abuses that we see, the abuse, the brutalization, the officer involved shootings and things like that, is to better weed these people out before they even get to the academy. Yeah. He talked a lot about, you know, something, with today's technology, we can do deep dives on candidates' social media. We could do deep dives on their emails and stuff like that. And we should have the ability to do so, to find out what they are about. And to also, via looking at their social media and stuff, if they've got a crazy racist cousin who's always posting stuff, and they themselves don't actually post anything, but they're always liking this crazy racist post, then we know that's a disqualifying factor. Mm-hmm. And he said, once a candidate becomes an officer, it is hard as hell to get them out, because the union is going to back them no matter what. And it's just so many mechanisms in place that allow them to keep their job. Mm-hmm. So he said the best thing to do is to tighten up the holes in the colander that you use to select and screen, to close some of those and make it more restrictive, and do deeper dives into psychology and deeper dives into their media habits and things like that. What do you say to that? What do you think about that?
Okay, the best example I have is in the military. You want to get top secret clearance? They go into your second grade teacher and ask, hey, what were you doing at this particular day? Just because you're dealing with so much sensitive information. And I would think that same criteria needs to be applied to police officers too, because the reality is police officers are in people's homes. Mm-hmm. When there's an emergency. Police officers are stopping people, searching people's vehicles. We don't know. I mean, I'm not saying there is, but you don't know if there's a shady cop that could plant something in someone's car. You know, mm-hmm. Police officers are always intimate in terms of dealing with dealing with constituents. Mm-hmm. I've never seen police officers be like, you know, come to my house, someone's, you know, I need your help. The police officer's like, well, I don't want to go in your house. I'm going to stand 10 feet away from your house. Mm-hmm. No, the police officer goes in the house. He keeps the house out. So I say all that to say that police officer needs to go through a rigorous background check, because the reality is they're entrusted by the citizens of their particular community with their safety. And the trust level has to be there.
In my 8th grade social studies class, my teacher, Mr. Humble, told us things that it turns out are not always true. And after doing our own research, we're going to talk to you about the dig on Blue Lives Matter. So we're going to try to push through this pretty quick so that we can be respectful of Jesse's time. Haas, you got it. Start us out.
It's a symbol that has existed for years. A black and white U.S. themed flag with a single blue stripe. It's known as the Thin Blue Line. Law enforcement officers and supporters who display the blue line flag on patrol vehicles, uniforms, and face masks view it as a show of pride and respect for a dangerous profession that puts officers' lives on the line. The idea that police are the force that stands between law and order and chaos, the force that safeguards society against disorder. Critics, however, believe the symbol creates a sense of division between police and the communities they serve. Some say the concept fails to recognize that police are human and subject to error, biases, and a feeling of entitlement. And at a time when people across the country have taken to the streets for weeks to protest police brutality, and historic lack of accountability due to qualified immunity policies, it's a symbol that some see as polarizing.
Okay, so I'm going to read this very brief history. Won't take but a few minutes, and then I have a quick video. It's about 60 seconds long. And then we'll start with Jesse's thoughts on what we have talked about here today, and then hopefully we'll generate a quick discussion. And then before we go, Jesse, we'll want to learn about how people can get in touch with your campaign, so we can raise you some cash, some cheddar cheese.
Get that guap, that fetty.
So Blue Lives Matter is a counter movement. Okay, key term right there, counter movement in the United States, advocating that those who are prosecuted and convicted of killing law enforcement officers should be sentenced under hate crime statutes. That's the official. Okay, never hear that though. It was started in response to Haas.
Black Lives Matter.
Yes, Black Lives Matter after the homicide of NYPD officer Rafael Ramos and Wanjian Liu in Brooklyn in December of 2014. On December 20th, 2014, in the wake of the killings of Officer Ramos and Officer Liu, a group of law enforcement officers formed Blue Lives Matter to counter reports that they perceived to be anti-police. Blue Lives Matter is made up of active and retired law enforcement officers on the establishment level, not the community grassroots level. The current national spokesman is retired Las Vegas officer Lieutenant Randy Sutton, who is in the video. In response to this, Louisiana has passed legislation in 2016 making it a hate crime to target officers. Some critics of Blue Lives Matter state that one's job can never reach a deep identity significance and source of solidarity that one's racial identity can. Others state that Black identity and history is constantly under threat of erasure, while police officers do not face this threat. Another source of criticism is police officers are typically respected and honored in communities, while African Americans are generally suspected of being thieves and or freeloaders. Finally, some state that supporters of Blue Lives Matter are intentionally or unintentionally supporting a system of discriminatory policing and racial profiling. Lastly, critics of Blue Lives Matter state laws say that the state laws are redundant, as attacking or killing a police officer would already result in harsher punishment than attacking a non-police officers. One advocate says it fosters an us versus them mentality. The police and community, and this sounds like what Jesse said, should work together in order to produce safety. Each should respect the role of the other. If you're looking at the community as a potential enemy or as a threat, that's certainly going to hinder any positive relationship. But before the phrase came the flag. So what is the thin blue line flag? So this can be traced, the phrase thin blue line can be traced all the way back to 1854, a British battle formation called a thin red line used during the Crimean War. This is according to James Clapp and Elizabeth Thornburg, who dig up popular phrase histories as a profession. It was occasionally used for police, but that usage caught on in 1922. Again, we're talking about thin blue line. After New York Police Commissioner Richard Enright, facing criticism of his leadership, mentioned it in a public relations effort. In the 1950s, Thin Blue Line was the version of a short-lived TV show about the LAPD, masterminded by William H. Parker, the chief of police. Parker was known for his unambiguous racism. He said some immigrants were not far removed from the wild tribes and compared Black residents participating in the 65 Watts riots to monkeys in a zoo.
Oh, there you go.
Parker used the phrase thin blue line constantly. In his view, the police protected Western civilization from communists, progressive politicians, and minorities.
I hate to interrupt here, Dutch, but this just in from military.com. It's been just eating at the back of my head. You know, those 4 years of ROTC, it's really bothering me. Subsection 8 of the flag code, respect for flag. Subsection 8, Article D, the flag should never be used as wearing apparel, bedding, or drapery. It should never be festooned, drawn back, nor up in folds, but always allowed to fall free. Bunting of blue, white, and red, always arranged with the blue above, the white in the middle, and the red above, shall be used covering the speaker's desk. It goes on and on about how you're not supposed to put it on clothing or change any of the colors of the flag, but this is just the military.com flag code that's in pretty much every single. I digress. Go ahead, Dutch. I hate to break it.
There are a lot of parallels, says Kramer, between Chief Parker and Trump. Parker had no understanding, much like Trump, of the complexities of poverty and racism. So, how did the flag that Mikey just described came to be, and what does it stand for? In 2014, a white college student named Andrew Jacob was watching protests of the police killings of Eric Garner, Michael Brown, and Tamir Rice. He had seen the image of the thin blue line flag on patches and stickers on television being worn by some of the police. He told the Marshall Project, but not an actual flag. There's a picture of a flag. While in high school, he had attended a memorial service. Who cares? Okay. Now Jacob went on, after being inspired here, to become the president of Thin Blue Line USA, the largest online retailer devoted exclusively to sales of pro-police flags, T-shirts, and jewelry. Quote, the flag has no association with racism, hatred, or bigotry. It's a flag to show support for law enforcement. No politics involved. This is almost laughable. And the company, though, to its credit, did disavow officially its use in Charlottesville. Jacob said the flag was not a direct reaction to the first... Jesse's got not a lot of time. Go ahead.
Is there a postal workers flag that I should be flying?
No, but there is a Rangers flag that's green, though, which is very strange looking.
The New York Rangers baseball team? Or no, the hockey team? No, thank you, sir.
So I'm going to push on in trying to help Jesse out here. So Jacob said the flag was not a direct reaction to the first Black Lives Matter protest. This is amazing.
Oh,
had nothing to do with Black Lives Matter. An idea that had been suggested, but he does allow, and this is in quote, that I may have seen the thin blue line image after those protests spurred the circulation of pro-police imagery. I saw that online. Maybe that's why it came to my eyes. Oh, so it was because of that. So as Jacob built the company Blue Lives Matter, a Blue Lives Matter movement was growing in the wake of news stories of officers shot to death in Baton Rouge, Brooklyn, and Dallas. Meanwhile, Donald Trump, as a presidential candidate, called police the force between civilization and total chaos. However, police were not actually in greater danger than they had been before the Black Lives Matter movement. Ambush killings of police had actually declined more than 90% since 1970, according to a study by Michael White, a professor of criminology at Arizona State University. White understands how the thin blue line flag has become a part of pop culture and police culture, and that officers themselves, the police fraternity, may indeed honestly view it as a sign of solidarity. However, he worries about the message being conveyed by the general public who are not in the policing community as an anti-Black Lives Matter form of identity politics. And it is their devotion to Blue Lives Matter that is worrisome.
Until January 6th, when they was fucking up them cops at the Capitol.
Real quick, what I want to do, yes, you are correct, is I want to share this quick video. I'm only going to play about a minute and a half of this. But this is from Vice News. And it is a conversation between
goddamn liberal media outlet.
It's the guy who founded Blue Lives Matter, who I aforementioned, and a friend of his who is an African-American police officer.
God damn.
Black Lives Matter was a terrorist organization.
Yeah, I'm gonna get ripped for this one. My personal belief is that the average person who believes in Black Lives Matter is just the average citizen who believes that there are certain instances of police brutality in this country. And I don't see how anybody can dispute that.
Are you shitting me?
Okay, tell me, what have you seen?
Many people in Black Lives Matter are spouting the ideology of kill the police.
Pause.
You have people.
I know why you're doing that.
Ain't nobody asked him what his fucking assessment was. He not even answering the damn question. Anyway, I apologize.
That interpret that like the killer in Dallas, like the killer in Baton Rouge.
Neither of which was part of Black Lives Matter, by the way.
That doesn't matter. They absorbed that ideology and it perverted them to the point where they were able to, in their own minds, martyr themselves.
Pause.
The police.
Is this motherfucker a licensed psychologist, or psychotherapist, or a psychoanalyst?
Absolutely.
No, but it's amazing how he talks about people have been indoctrinated while saying nowadays he would be one of the ones who would say those people weren't inspired by Trump. Let's play the last 45 seconds here and then we'll go to Jesse.
Police.
How can you say it's a terrorist organization when the average person that's in Black Lives Matter doesn't even believe that?
You don't know what the average person believes.
You just
The ideology of the average person who's in Black Lives Matter is not killing cops. It's stopping police brutality.
But the ideology of those that are marching and screaming, fry them like bacon, when do we want them?
Oh, you poor
what do we
thing.
want?
That's a
Dead cops.
minority in the groups that are doing the
Okay.
march.
Well, does everybody in ISIS believe that they should kill the infidel?
Yes.
yes.
They're killing their own people. They kill anybody. If you're going to say that there's a small group of people that are using Black Lives Matter to ferment killing cops, then you're painting the whole organization with that brush, which means you can't get pissed off when people see a dirty cop do something and they're not painting all cops.
Yes.
And he says, yes, I can. So hypocrisy 101, welcome to the show. What he said at the end there is you can't pick two people, Jesse, and you were involved with Black Lives Matter. So what this guy said is he can pick two people or three people or nine people who support Black Lives Matter. And remember, there's Black Lives Matter, the organization, and then there's the phrase, right? Different things. And he can paint the whole organization based on those beliefs of those two people.
Yes.
But if someone does that the opposite way around and says all police are bad because these police cover up for each other or this one killed someone, no, you're not allowed to do that.
Of course
There's
not.
no hypocrisy there, is there, Jesse?
It's a lot of hypocrisy there. For me, I don't know what he was talking about. Like I said, I have friends that are police officers who can say they're bad cops out there. I mean, I think that you can't. There's every organization, no matter what it is, Black Lives Matter has bad apples. Police organization has bad apples. No matter where you go in any organization, there's going to be a bad apple. But it's what the organization does once they know there's a bad apple, and that is a sign if the organization is actually helping the community or is it not. And that's what I think the gentleman on the video, who he failed to understand, he painted Black Lives Matter as a brush of saying that, well, they all believe in killing cops. And the reality is there are people who are cops walking in Black Lives Matters in protest. So that doesn't make any sense. And there's cops who I've seen walk around with the black and white and blue, the thin blue line, who actually believe in in reforming the police officers. Reforming the police department. And so the reality is you can't paint everything in a brush. The reality is, as a community, we have to stick together. We have to find out what are the common pitfalls that's been holding our community back. Black Lives Matter organization shed a light on something that's been happening for over 70 years, 80 years. It's not like it made it. It's not like it hasn't been going on. They just essentially made it in the forefront so people can talk about it. And just the same thing with police officers. police officers' poor training has been going on for 70, 100 years, and no one's talked about it because it's always been swept under the rug. And now police officers can't sweep it under the rug. And some police officers are welcoming the reforms while others are not. And it's not for us to, as a community, a lot of people don't understand. As a community, we control the police force. A lot of people don't know that.
Right.
There is not one, like as a community, if we got together and we're like, we don't want that police chief there, there's not one mayor in America who's going to be like, yeah, I'm going to keep you here even though I can get voted out. It's just that's not how politics works. So we have way more power than what any police union can do, any police force can do. The reality is, what are we doing as a community to address those systematic racism that's in the criminal justice system? If we're not willing to have that conversation to fix it, then we're not moving forward as a community. And for me, that is the ultimate issue, is us coming together and figuring out a common solution.
Take it easy.
All right,
Have
brother.
a good one.
You too.
Take
Have
care,
a great
man.
day.
We'll talk to you
All right.
soon.
Good luck to you.
Thank you. Bye.
All right, he's
Okay.
gone. Let's talk about him.
Yeah, let's talk about him. Okay, so moving back to what we were talking about before, I want to give you guys a chance to give your reflections on what we learned, because I think we already all kind of knew this, except for maybe I learned the part about the T-shirts. I didn't know about the guy who created the T-shirt company until I started researching this. But I'll start with this question as an icebreaker. Haas, if it were not for Black Lives Matter, would we see Blue Lives Matter hashtags, and will we see thin blue line flags hanging as frequently as we do?
Do you want the short answer or the longer answer?
Give us the juice.
Okay. So, put it to you like this. If the hashtag was something that people really meant, if driving around with that flag on your jacked up F-150 and stuff like that is something that they really believed in, then why was it so definitely silent after the riot on the insurrection on January 6th? Why weren't these people denouncing, decrying, and reviling the incident at the Capitol with "This is not American" hashtag Blue Lives Matter, when they were watching live cops getting run over, cops getting beat down?
You hear them? Chirp, 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 chirp.
It got drier than a motherfucker on the Blue Lives Matter hashtag in reference to the Capitol, didn't it? Hey, how many "We support the Capitol Police" profile picture frames did you see from people who've been hollering Blue Lives Matter and support the police?
And that's the thing that the right does so effectively that the left doesn't do. They, within a matter of a couple of hours, they separated the Capitol for police from all other forms.
All other police. They're not real police. All of a sudden,
they're like below park rangers.
Yeah.
No true Scotsman fallacy. Live and direct.
Like it was at you would have swore that Barry Allen was doing it. It was
they're
so
the police,
fast.
but they're not the police.
They're not po.
Right, because
yeah,
they was trying to keep them good white folks out of that Capitol.
They just
and real police wouldn't do that. Real police would have let them in.
They just wanted to lynch the vice president and
Nancy
Speaker of the
Pelosi.
House.
I mean, they was only looking for AOC to maybe possibly rape her, but who knows?
They were just smearing shit on the walls. They were very dignified.
They only stole a few laptops and some other stuff, some memorabilia.
they were ushered in. Remember?
Yeah, it was a tour.
It was a tour.
It was a 3-hour tour.
Yeah, very peaceful tour. Yeah, and Gilligan and the skipper were there.
The answer is, if not for Black Lives Matter, you obviously wouldn't have a Blue Lives Matter and people in the general public flying that flag, because if they meant it, they would have meant it and reacted viscerally to what they saw at the Capitol, but they did not, because their fearless leader poked that shit along.
Now, Haas, I don't know what Blue Lives Matter is. I was told that Black Lives Matter was terrorists and that all lives matter was all inclusive.
Oh, we didn't hear that either, did we?
Don't blue lives fit into all lives?
Didn't hear that shit either.
I was told that Black Lives Matter was divisive because it left people out. But then suddenly, after all lives matter, up turns blue lives matter, and that's okay. That's not divisive.
No.
What about all the rest of the government workers? What about the military? What about the
Don't they
firemen?
matter?
What about the
postal workers?
What about the postal workers? Rain, sleet, snow, or shine, they there.
Man, and that little ass right-hand drive piece of shit.
Don't all soldiers matter?
Right.
No, apparently not. Only cops matter.
Only the cops that are doing what they want the cops to do matter.
I'm just saying, I just know that Blue Lives Matter really leaves out everyone else in the country. And I think that it's so divisive for people to want to talk about blue lives only. Like the Smurfs were okay, but they don't need their own flag.
And here's the thing.
What makes them better than trolls?
When that Somali cop shot that blonde-haired, blue-eyed white girl.
Oh, that's a wrap.
Was there even his own union was like,
bon voyage.
But you know what though? I will say this though, and we've seen this recently. This is not related, but it is. with that particular case that you said, I will say this: when a blonde girl goes missing or dies, America loses its fucking mind. Look what's happening right now with this. What is her name? Gabby Petite or something like that.
Petito,
and her
her
scumbag boyfriend who they can't seem to find.
Oh, you know why? Because they didn't fucking arrest the motherfucker when he came home without her. Oh yeah, she's missing. Oh yeah, by the way, she's missing. Okay, sir. Have a nice day.
Now my black.
She only left with him. Went across the country. He comes back with the van, but not her. And they don't arrest this motherfucker. If it was me and like my wife, if I went somewhere on a road trip with my fucking white wife and I came home and she wasn't with me and I said, oh yeah, she's missing. Where the fuck do you think I would be until they found her?
Your ass better be looking for her because you better not come home empty-handed.
It's not like he forgot his canteen.
Right. I forgot my charger. I forgot my charger in the desert.
Oh my God. I leave my charger in every hotel I ever stay in. I must be funding a fucking eBay.
100% Wayne Maker. Missing white girl syndrome.
And
meanwhile, we got all these native girls that are missing and all these black women that are missing, all these Hispanic women that are missing.
There was a different story. I forgot where it was at. There was a different story. We'll jump off this real quick, but there was a different story about a missing young lady. And I watched the YouTube video, and it was a Hispanic woman, beautiful young woman, presumed dead. Boyfriend killed himself, right? So they're pretty sure that he did something, right? Scumbag, just like this other guy. But this one lady commented on there. She goes, "Oh my God, this is like 30 minutes from me. How come I haven't heard about this?" And my comment was, because unfortunately, the media is fixed on Gabby Petito. And the truth is, I thought all lives matter. I literally wrote that. I said, I thought all lives matter. So why is it that you had two, I'm sure, lovely, beautiful lives that were snuffed out, but we pay attention to one of them? Now, I get that the case is a little bit weird, but Natalie Holloway wasn't weird, and we're still talking about her today. Sandra Bland wasn't that weird, but we're talking about her still today. John Benet Ramsey wasn't that weird. It was kind of a little bit maybe with the pageant stuff.
Man, I saw her at 7-Eleven 2 weeks ago.
Stop.
Yeah, unprofessional. All right, but Mikey, the part in the video where, well, two things I want to ask you. One, the guy who created the t-shirt company that says it's not about racism, it's not about politics.
Yeah.
Do you think that he actually might just hold that view personally himself, and he doesn't realize what it's being used for? Or do you believe that he's completely complicit in it, like from the beginning?
There's no way, because this did not come out before Black Lives Matter. I think we can all safely assume that
he admitted in the article that he saw it there.
Right. So he heard about Black Lives Matter, and that was like for anti police brutality. If you come up with Blue Lives Matter, I don't care how you try to spin it, you are pro police brutality. So that being said, and I've brought this up in 1,000 arguments now. When I bring up the numbers of people brutalized by the police and the percentage of them that are black, I always get, oh yeah, well it happens 10 times as much to whites, and you don't care. That's okay,
Right. But here's the thing: is that
you're good
lot
with that.
right,
That's good for you.
That's fine. And I love the it's only 1%. And then if you run the numbers and run if you run 1% and then you break that down into individual interactions per day of the 1%, and then you say, well, let's just say the 1% only act bad 1% of the time. That's still like 10 to 15,000 bad fucking incidents
a day.
So what are we talking about when we say, oh, it's just 1%? And if you really believe it's 1%, I would like to direct you to a couple of FBI studies.
Yeah.
Okay, so there we go. There's your dig for today. Now you know more about Blue Lives Matter.